What if one morning the sky above us turns silent in a way we had never seen before? No aircraft, no satellites responding, news channels frozen, governments scrambling. In different corners of the world, tensions that once felt distant suddenly feel dangerously close. When powerful nations exchange threats or stand on the edge of confrontation, it reminds us of something deeply uncomfortable. Civilization is not unbreakable. Stability is not permanent. History has proven again and again that global order can shift in days, sometimes in hours. And when we think about how interconnected our world has become, a single large-scale conflict, a chain reaction of decisions, or even a catastrophic mistake could reshape life as we know it. For centuries, humans believed the ground beneath their feet was eternal. Kingdoms fell, empires collapsed, but the planet itself endured. Today, however, our risks are larger than ever before. Nuclear arsenals can erase cities in minutes. Climate systems are under stress. Artificial intelligence, cyber warfare, biological threats, and environmental collapse all exist within the realm of possibility. Add to that the cosmic dangers we do not control: asteroid impacts, solar superstorms, gamma-ray bursts. And one question begins to echo louder than ever: if Earth were no longer safe, do we have anywhere else to go? That question leads us to Mars, the cold red world that has captured human imagination for generations. From ancient astronomers who saw it as a wandering blood-colored star to modern scientists planning robotic missions, Mars has always felt different. It is not just another planet. It is the only place in the solar system that even slightly resembles home. And that resemblance, however small, has made it the center of one of humanity's boldest dreams: becoming a multi-planet species. Our home Earth is astonishingly fragile when viewed from space. Its thin blue atmosphere, barely thicker than the skin of an apple compared to its size, protects billions of lives from radiation and extreme temperatures. Oceans regulate heat. A magnetic field shields us from solar winds. Life thrives because countless systems work together in delicate balance. But what happens if that balance breaks beyond repair? What if war, environmental collapse, or an unstoppable chain of disasters pushes civilization to the brink? Scientists have long debated whether colonizing another planet is a luxury or a necessity. Some argue that we should fix our world before dreaming of another. Others say diversification is survival. Humanity spreads seeds in different fields so that if one crop fails, another survives. Space agencies like NASA and private companies, such as SpaceX, have turned that philosophical debate into engineering plans. Rockets are being designed not just to visit Mars, but to stay. Concepts for habitats, life support systems, and even self-sustaining colonies are no longer pure science fiction. They exist in blueprints, simulations, and experimental labs. But hope and reality are not the same thing. Mars is brutally unforgiving. The average temperature hovers around -60 degrees Celsius. At night near the poles, it can drop to -125. The atmosphere is composed mostly of carbon dioxide, with almost no oxygen to breathe. Surface pressure is less than 1% of what we experience on Earth. If you stood on the Martian surface without protection, you would not simply suffocate. The low pressure would cause bodily fluids to begin vaporizing. Radiation from the sun and cosmic rays would bombard you without mercy. There is no thick magnetic field to shield life. Dust storms can engulf the entire planet, lasting for weeks or even months. So how could such a hostile world ever save humanity? The answer lies not in comfort, but in possibility. Mars has water ice trapped in its polar caps and beneath its surface. Water can be melted, purified, and split into hydrogen and oxygen. Oxygen can be used for breathing. Hydrogen can become rocket fuel. The planet has a day length remarkably similar to ours, just over 24 hours. It has seasons due to its axial tilt. Long ago, rivers flowed across its surface. Lakes existed. Some scientists believe that billions of years ago, it may have had a thicker atmosphere and warmer climate. That ancient habitability fuels the idea that with enough technology, we might carve out protected pockets of life there again. Yet carving out pockets is very different from replacing a planet. If Earth suffered partial destruction, massive war, severe climate damage, economic collapse, it would still possess oceans, gravity optimized for our bodies, and a biosphere that, even if wounded, continues to function. Repairing damaged ecosystems on Earth would likely be easier than terraforming an entire alien world. Transforming Mars into a second Earth would require thickening its atmosphere, warming its surface, and somehow generating a protective magnetic field. Current science suggests this process could take centuries, possibly thousands of years, if it is possible at all. That means any early Mars colony would not be a paradise. It would be a bunker. Imagine living underground or inside sealed dumps, where every breath is generated by machines. Food grown in controlled hydroponic farms. Water recycled endlessly. Every system monitored constantly. A single malfunction in an oxygen generator, a leak in a habitat wall, or a major solar storm could threaten hundreds of lives at once. Resupply missions from Earth would take months to arrive, if they could arrive at all. Communication delays would stretch up to 20 minutes each way. Conversations would lose their immediacy. Emergencies would demand self-reliance beyond anything humanity has experienced before. Now imagine attempting this while Earth itself is unstable. If global tensions escalated into widespread conflict, space infrastructure could become collateral damage. Satellites might be disabled, launch facilities targeted, funding redirected toward immediate survival instead of long-term exploration. In such a scenario, the dream of Mars as a refuge becomes paradoxical. We would need a stable Earth to build the escape route, yet the escape route is designed for a world where stability has failed. There is also the human body to consider. Mars has about 38% of Earth's gravity. Long-term exposure to low gravity leads to muscle atrophy and bone density loss. Astronauts on the International Space Station exercise for hours each day just to slow these effects, and they still return weaker than before. What would happen to children born and raised on Mars? Would their bones develop differently? Would their cardiovascular systems adapt in ways that make returning to Earth impossible? Could multiple generations live there without severe medical complications? We simply do not know. Psychology may be an even greater challenge than biology. Isolation on another planet is not comparable to living in a remote village or an underwater habitat. It is absolute. No quick rescue. No fast travel home. Even looking up at the sky would be different. Earth would appear as a small pale dot. Birthdays, funerals, global events, all experienced through delayed messages. The sense of distance could weigh heavily on the human mind. Studies conducted in Antarctic research stations and simulated Mars habitats show that small groups under confinement can develop tension, depression, and conflict over time. Multiply that by years, not months, and the challenge becomes profound. Still, humanity has always ventured into the unknown. When sailors first crossed vast oceans, many believed they would fall off the edge of the world. When explorers trekked across deserts and mountains, survival was uncertain. Each era had its frontier. Mars represents the ultimate frontier. The difference is that previous frontiers were still part of Earth's biosphere. Air was breathable, gravity familiar. Ecosystems, though harsh, were compatible with human life. Mars offers none of that by default. Some visionaries argue that establishing a colony on Mars is less about immediate survival and more about long-term insurance. Civilizations can collapse, but if a self-sustaining population exists elsewhere, the human story continues. Knowledge, culture, science, preserved across planets. In this view, Mars does not need to replace Earth. It only needs to prevent total extinction. But achieving self-sustainability is far more difficult than landing a flag on red soil. A true backup civilization would need agriculture independent of Earth's shipments, manufacturing capabilities to produce spare parts, medical facilities capable of handling complex procedures, and eventually the ability to build new spacecraft without relying on Earth-based industries. That requires mining local resources, refining metals, generating large-scale power, and developing supply chains in an environment where even stepping outside requires a pressurized suit. Energy production would likely depend on solar panels or nuclear reactors. Yet solar power on Mars is less efficient due to greater distance from the sun and frequent dust storms. Nuclear reactors bring their own risks and political controversies. Every solution introduces new vulnerabilities. Then there is the moral dimension. If a catastrophic event threatened Earth, who would get to leave? Would it be scientists, engineers, and highly trained specialists? The wealthy who can afford a ticket? A lottery system. The idea of an escape planet raises uncomfortable ethical questions about fairness and inequality. If Mars becomes humanity's lifeboat, how many seats would it have? And who decides? It is also possible that the very act of preparing for Mars could strengthen Earth. Technologies developed for survival in extreme environments, efficient recycling systems, renewable energy innovations, advanced agriculture could help repair damage here. In that sense, Mars exploration is not an abandonment of Earth, but an extension of problem solving. By learning how to survive in the harshest conditions imaginable, we might become better stewards of our own world. Consider the alternative. If we choose not to pursue multi-planetary life, we place all of humanity's future on one fragile sphere. Statistically, over millions of years, extinction-level events are not hypothetical. They are inevitable. The dinosaurs ruled for over 160 million years, yet a single asteroid impact ended their dominance. Humanity has existed for only a tiny fraction of that time. Our technology is powerful, but it does not make us immune to cosmic chance. However, optimism must be grounded in realism. Mars cannot currently save billions of people. Transporting even a few thousand would require enormous resources. Building habitats for millions would take decades, perhaps centuries. The cost would be staggering. During that time, Earth would remain our primary home. If it deteriorates too quickly, there may not be enough time to complete the backup plan. In scenarios involving global war, especially between technologically advanced nations, infrastructure damage could cascade rapidly. Power grids, communication networks, transportation systems, all interconnected. A severe breakdown could reduce global cooperation, precisely when cooperation is most needed for space colonization. In other words, the path to Mars depends on the very stability we fear losing. Yet the dream persists because it represents hope. When people imagine stepping onto Martian soil, they are not just picturing a scientific achievement. They are imagining survival against the odds. They are imagining humanity refusing to disappear. In moments when news headlines feel heavy and global tensions seem unpredictable, the idea of another world offers perspective. It reminds us that our story is larger than any single conflict, any single generation. If Earth were partially destroyed but still habitable, rebuilding here would likely remain the priority. Mars colonies, if they exist, would function as research outposts and symbolic insurance policies. If Earth faced complete annihilation, an asteroid too large to deflect, a runaway environmental catastrophe, or irreversible nuclear winter, the timeline for evacuation would be brutally short. Current technology does not allow for rapid mass migration to another planet. That reality underscores an important truth. The best way to ensure human survival is still to protect Earth first. Mars may become a second chapter, but it cannot replace the first. Perhaps the most honest answer to whether Mars can save humanity is this: not yet, and maybe not alone. It could serve as a refuge for a small fraction of our species. It could preserve knowledge and culture. It could provide a starting point for rebuilding if the worst ever happens. But it would not be an easy continuation of life as we know it. It would be harsh, fragile, and uncertain. And maybe that understanding changes the conversation. Instead of seeing Mars as an escape from Earth's problems, we might see it as a mirror. A barren world that shows us what our planet could become if we fail to protect it. A reminder that breathable air, flowing water, and stable climates are rare treasures in the universe. So can Mars save humanity if Earth is destroyed? It might save a fragment of us, a determined, carefully selected fragment willing to endure extreme hardship. It might keep the flame of human consciousness alive in sealed habitats beneath alien skies. But the true salvation of humanity does not lie solely in rockets or distant colonies. It lies in reducing the risks we create, managing the power we hold, and preserving the planet that already sustains billions effortlessly. Mars is not a magical backup copy waiting to be activated. It is a challenge, immense, inspiring, and unforgiving. Reaching it will test our science. Living on it will test our biology. Thriving on it will test our unity. In a universe filled with silent worlds, Earth remains a miracle. Mars may one day host our cities, our farms, and our children. But until that distant future becomes reality, the red planet stands less as a guaranteed rescue and more as a symbol of resilience. A statement that no matter how uncertain our times feel, humanity continues to look up, to plan, and to imagine survival beyond the horizon. And perhaps that determination, more than any planet, is what will ultimately save us.